with any subject in TafeSA, we have a unit and unit assessment outline. Okay, what's that? Basically tells you what's the units inside of the course. If we quickly open this up, you'll see that there's two units, the ICT 557 and the ICT 559, NWK 559. These are two core units for the networking. The system administration that you're doing, Reza, is just an elective, okay? But if you look up the codes, you can look at the exact details of what's being assessed or what's going to be delivered and what's going to be in the unit. So if I plug in that code, the first one you see is a training.gov. Is a training.gov, and it talks about the code, the unit, and talks about the training package it's in. So that we've got rules like how do you get to the pump? You need these amount of cores, these amount of specialized electives, this amount of whatever electives. Okay, but this is it talks about that, but this is the specific unit, and you can see that each unit has things which are elements and things which are performance criteria within the elements. So if you're asking me, if you're wondering why, if we're doing this subject, why are they making us, let's see, this is probably not the best one, but why are they making us do role plays for collaboration? Okay, why are they making do role plays to collaborate with someone else? Okay, maybe it's because one of these elements, for example, is obtain vendor thing, and you have to do it with oral communication. You see this? The oral communication. So it's not like your lecturer loves to have these role plays with you. For me, hey, easy. Let's just give you a practical test and a quiz, like industry certification. That's easy for me, isn't it? But reality is the training package is all about working in the environment, not just not the technology. Because we all know people with good technological skills, and they may not have the good people skills. And unfortunately, the ICT is a service industry. You're not just dealing with computers. You have to build the interface between the computers and the people. So therefore, having these oral communication skills is very important. That's why we do those role plays and stuff like that. Not because we love them more than tests and quizzes and stuff like that. We do it because it's a skill that the industry tells us that our graduates must have. So if you want to look into it, not that most people would, they don't really care. Most people would just want to know, what do I have to do to pass? And that's the key thing, okay? If we keep on scrolling down, this talks about the different units, like we said, and then it talks about the assessment. To pass this subject, you have two assessments. You have a build assessment. Okay, this is the more practical with virtual machines. So this is a first assessment. Okay, it's going to be based on the vSphere. Okay, product with a shared storage, which is the TrueNAS, and basically you have to build this environment where you can virtualize more virtual machines within that. So if you like to think it, we've got VMware Workstation. We all know that. Okay, you know that already? And then inside of VMware Workstation, we create, what's it? An ESXi virtual machine. If you don't know what ESXi is, you will definitely know by the end of this course. It's basically the enterprise version of VMware Workstation. It's a bare metal hypervisor, as opposed to VMware Workstation, which is a desktop hosted hypervisor. So then within the ESXi, we create virtual machines. Again, so if you like to think it, it's a virtual machine inside a virtual machine. You get me? So there's two layers of virtualization. So what does that actually mean? It means our computer is going to be really, really stressed. Okay, it's going to need all these hardware requirements and resources. Okay, I find that CPU, it's very high demand as well as memory. Okay, and the solid-state hard drive, as we always do. But the CPU and memory for this subject is going to be very high demanding. These computers in this classroom only have the i5 with the 16 gigs of RAM. Not the best, okay? Not the best. I think the cyber room has i7s with 32 gigs of RAM, which is a little bit better. So if you can get in there, if you don't have your own computer that's sufficient, then I would suggest use a room in the cyber room, okay? They are a little bit better if you can get in there and do some work. So the second one is a written one, okay? This is where you're looking at a situation, the scenario, and you're assessing the virtualization software. Like we're going to, this subject's about VMware vSphere, which is a suite of software with ESXi, vCenter, and various other things. But well, the second half of the subject is on Hyper-V. So we're going to learn about both. Okay, the practical is going to be vSphere because it's the first assessment, and we won't be covering the Hyper-V until the second half. So that's why it's only in vSphere. But to be honest, we could have done it in either. We could have done it here, but they both do the same job. So when we do the second assessment, you would have already done vSphere, and you would be covering a Hyper-V. And this is where you have to understand the technology. What's the equivalence? What's different? What's better about Hyper-V as opposed to vSphere? Okay. And for this scenario, which is preferred? What does the customer say? What is the customer's current environment? Which one would be a better choice? Okay, there's a whole range of things, what the customer already knows, what the customer wants, what the customer is willing to pay, and what is the suitable for the environment they're in. And obviously for future as well. Okay, so all of you guys would have studied, I'm not sure about you, Reza, or you, Andrew, but the rest of you guys would have done some cloud already. Okay, AWS, Amazon Web Services, as well as Azure Web Prem. Okay, so obviously this is what we're talking about here. This subject is not the public cloud like those things. We're more referring to the private cloud. Okay, on-premises private cloud. All right, so this is a pass-fail subject. So basically, in order to pass, you must satisfy all requirements. Okay, not 99%, 100%. Just like what we talked about in this training thing, all these elements I must tick you off for. Okay, if I can't tick you off for one of these things, they won't let me. They'll audit me and they'll get me in trouble. Okay, and they'll accuse me of favoritism to my students or taking bribes maybe from you guys, which I'm definitely not going to do. So don't. I'm not going to lie. It's a wonder. You know, it depends on your hardware. It depends on your previous understanding of networking and virtualization. It's not going to be the easiest thing. So we all presume because you're doing the diploma, you already have this underlying skills. Okay. So if we tell you to go create Active Directory with DNS and some reverse and forward lookup zones and these groups and users in Active Directory, you must be able to do that without us giving you the instructions on how to bang, how to do all these things. That's what we learned in Cert 4. All right, so if we open this file, this is the schedule, okay? So we're very subject in IT studies. There's a schedule. It has the date of the first day of the week, which is the Monday, and what we're going to talk about in that session. You can see it's spread out. You can see the first, it's a semester-long subject, 1 lesson a week. Should be easy, sort of not strenuous pace, like some of the other ones where you have 2 lessons a week and you finish in 1 term. So we could have done that as well for this one, but that would be a little bit harder because it is a tougher subject. And you'll see that in the first term, we are basically talking about VMware vSphere, including up to here, actually, two more weeks after the term. And then after that, we switch over to the Hyper-V. And then you'll see that your first assignment, which is the building the virtualization environment, is actually due. So take note of the fact that this is due. Final sign-off is at this point. Okay, so the way the build assignment works is that there's some write-up bits as well, but most of it is practical. Okay, if you've done all the Cert 4 stuff, like the WSS, where you did something, you got me to sign it off, check it's working correctly. So I think Son and Roman, you definitely have done that. You'll understand what I mean by as you're working through it, you get something working, get me to tick it off. If it's not right, then you go back and fix it. And really, there's no, if you take 10 times to sign it off, you take 10 times to sign it off, but when it gets to the day where it's due, completely sign off, it must be done. Okay, if you take 10 times in week 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, no problems. But if it's not signed off by that week, then the project, like in real life, is a failure. Okay, ICT projects are notorious for running over time and over budget, and basically the way we're treating this one is like an ICT project. I'm your project manager. You're the project implementation team by yourself, unfortunately, and basically you're getting signed off like weekly what do you call targets that you have to do in the Gantt chart. You might have you've been on a project before, maybe. Yeah. So basically, these are weekly targets. You might have a huddle with a supervisor on what you have to achieve this week. I'll be trying to forecast. This is where you should be at this stage. But if you're getting ticked off with me on a regular basis, you don't have to get everything ticked off in week 1. But if you're getting things ticked off, bang, 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 there's 2 things. One thing is, you know you're doing it right, and you're building it up. Okay. Second thing is you're not leaving everything to the last second. So I think you guys understand that. But then towards the end, a couple of weeks later or 4 weeks later, we've got our migration assignment due. Okay, this is more a written one, and we'll talk about the build assignment next week. Okay, I want to talk to you about the build assignment next week, so we can get that started ASAP. So what I want you to do for homework between now and next week is to actually go to your assessment area here, and I want you to have a look at the assessments. All right, so as with everything else in TafeSA now, the assessments are trying to reflect real work situation. So just like in the real work, you don't have every document that you need or every bit of information in one document. If you need a template, here's a template. If you need the documentation standards, here's the documentation standards. If you need the organizational requirements of this project, here's the organizational requirements. But these are what we call assessment support documents. So you might be referred to these documents, okay? But you use the assessment, and in the assessment it says refer to this document for this, for this, for this. You go to that document, you make sure you read it and understand it carefully. That's more like real life. For example, if I have a project for, creating 20 users and giving them a password, I'm not going to tell you what the password security policy is. I'll show you this is where the security policy is. You go in there, you look up what the password requirements are for users. Okay, so it's not going to be in the same document, if you know what I mean. All right, so just with this, look for it, read it, try to understand it, and we'll talk about it next week. Okay, that's my aim, because the key thing is, if you have a look at it, then you have some intelligent questions next week for me to ask. If you have no idea, don't look at it, then when you're looking at it for the first time, maybe you're using all your time to try to understand it rather than asking questions. Yes, Adrian?
I don't have the edit tick.
Of course not, you're not a lecturer.
Oh, no, oh, okay.
Okay, so if I let you edit all the assessments, what do you think was going to happen?
It was like access though.
Yeah, it is access. It's my access versus your access.
Oh, okay.
All right, well, I'm a lecturer, sorry, but you're not. Yeah. If you want to be, you got to finish this course first, okay?
Really?
You need to finish your studies
Right, sorry, mate.
I just finished uni first as well.
Not yet.
Both.
All right, so the way this subject is oh, sorry, I'm not sure why, but that's hidden for you. See, you not publicized to students. See, you probably can't see that one either, but I can for some reason, and that shouldn't be there, so I'll just delete it. All right, so basically the way it works in most of my subjects is that there's a presentation and there's a worksheet. All right, so today's worksheet is it's all about installing the ECXI server onto VMware Workstation. So the first step of getting our virtualization infrastructure, and if we actually have a look at this, I'm not saying go do it now, because that's definitely not what I want you to do. I just want to show you and everyone else what this sort of pro forma or template is, okay? So usually there's a name of the worksheet, there's the requirements, what do you need, okay? So for everyone who's been a student here, this first part is not a problem. For you guys, which are new, it is a problem because you haven't got this account yet. So instead of going here and getting a license key for now, what you guys are going to do is you're going to go to the VMware directly, and just download a trial version, okay, and get started today, and then you can put the key in later anyway. All right, so for new students, this is going to be a problem, and my aim is for by next week you would have access to another system, okay, to get free software, which you guys who study with us already have.
I'll see if I can get one from my uni.
It doesn't matter, we're going to provide you anyway. Okay, the other thing we need is a Server 2019 installation ISO, and it says go to your L drive, whatever. So if you weren't aware, especially for you guys, new guys, you have an L drive. You don't have an S drive, you have an L drive, okay? And in there, there's IT Studies NAS, and in there you've got things like Microsoft ISOs, for example. And if we go to Server 2019, eval, there we go. We've got an ISO here, we've got an ISO there. They're probably both the same thing, this is just being shortened the name to not be so complicated. As you can see, there it is. ISO.ISO, is that correct? Is that a typo? I think that might be a typo. So excuse that. I think that's just a typo, okay? But it gives you a projected time, okay? Depends on your computer, really. If you have a really super fast computer, like I said, where the CPU is good, plenty of memory, then it'll be faster. If you have a poor computer like what I had when I was creating the worksheet, then it'll take you a lot longer, okay? But this is what it should take if you have a decent computer, okay? Get the files. You can see the step-by-step instruction, create the ESXi VM. So these are the instructions I'm creating. So you can see there's pictures, step-by-step instructions, and the reason why I've got the pictures in here is because I did it previously. Okay, so I can assure you it does work. Okay, because I've done it, literally. So the key thing about creating the ESXi as a virtual machine in VMware is this step. Okay, so you might remember this from when you did Cert 4 VMware Workstation. You created a Windows 10 with Hyper-V in it. Maybe you remember that? Remember that? Yes, you guys do, because you did that course. This is very important, because if you don't enable this, then it doesn't support that nested virtualization inside virtualization. All right, but you can see that's the gist. This one's only 15 pages with all the screenshots and stuff like that. But other slides, other worksheets might be a lot bigger, okay? Because just the pure number of screenshots and whatnot. But we shall leave this here for us to use later. What we're going to do first of all